President Muhammadu Buhari joins other African leaders to launch $93 billion investment fund. Federal government launches reviewed National Integrated Infrastructure Master Plan. And Afrexim Bank signs project preparatory facility financing for floating LNG project in Nigeria. Plus, oil records weekly loss as recession fears outplay tight supply. This is Business Express on the network service of the NTA, and we are reaching you from Abuja, the nation's capital. I am Benny Adams, your guide. Good to have you here at this time, and it is that time we talk business. And we start by telling you that President Muhammadu Buhari has secured a funding commitment of $3.5 billion to Nigeria from the International Development Association of the World Bank in support of economic and human capital development projects. The amount is the highest allocation to any country by the World Bank institution as part of implementation of its 20th replenishment cycle beginning this month till the end of June 2025. State House correspondent Adam Sambo reports that this was at the International Development Association for Africa Summit just ended in Dakar, Senegal.
For us, the interest is how can we be part of an accelerator in the individual countries? For example, the West African Power Pool. How can we actually, through our operations, support and increase that ambition?
Regarded as a partner of choice in Africa, the International Development Association has earmarked a support facility of $93 billion for countries hard hit by current global crisis occasioned by climate change, COVID-19, growing levels of food insecurity, and the impact of the war in Ukraine. This is to enable them not only have a resilient recovery and their economies transformed, but also grow more quickly, equitably, and sustainably. 70% of the amount is allocated to about 40 African countries.
For Nigeria, we have been allocated a headroom of about 3.5 billion, and the intention is to apply the funds to the areas of most critical need as assessed by the heads of states and nations. It was agreed that energy sufficiency is a critical area, so is food security as well as human capital development. So that means it will help us to increase the energy sufficiency, support the poor and the vulnerable, and also help us to do more in terms of bridging the gap that we have in the education and health sectors.
President Muhammadu Buhari had in a closed session of the summit described the replenishment package of the IDA as a good good sign of solidarity and trust between the World Bank, donor countries, as well as the low-income nations. Nigeria's priority, he emphasized, is to build the resilience of our economy and drive what he called jobs-rich growth, focusing on industrialization. This will be driven by backward integration and export development based on value addition to key commodities. Adamu Sambo.
And in another push for the infrastructure sector in Nigeria, the federal government has presented to the public the reviewed National Integrated Infrastructure Master Plan. The reviewed master plan is the result of government's constant endeavor to build next-generation infrastructure that will improve the quality of life as well as ease of doing business.
The government of His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, in its resolve to bridge the nation's infrastructure gap in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic, floated a 15 trillion infrastructure corporation and also signed the Executive Order 7.
At the subnational level, we expect that they will key into this vision, key into this plan by developing the State Integrated Infrastructure Master Plan.
Reviewed National Integrated Infrastructure Master Plan project says Nigeria requires a total infrastructure investment of $2.3 trillion over the next 23 years, which is about $150 billion annually to finance infrastructure investment and close the country's infrastructure gap. And Nigeria is keyed into energy treaty for transition from fossil fuels to renewables to achieve zero emission and provide alternative sources of power supply. At a roundtable dialogue with key players in the renewable energy, federal government says adopting the International Energy Treaty will open opportunity for the transition and adopt action plans for implementation.
Nigeria therefore has targeted reducing the GHG emission by 20% unconditionally and 47% conditionally by 2030 and to net zero by 2060. To meet this ambition, policy targets will indeed require huge investment in low or no carbon-based energy systems, such as in transportation, power generation, manufacturing industry.
That belongs to the international community through the IEC, a community where common rules are there. It makes it very easy for people to come in and invest. And certainly we need a lot of investment to ensure that we have more electricity, we have more fuels that are green. Biofuels, we need electricity from renewables.
In the renewable energy sector, you have a lot of capacities in Nigeria. You have wind, you have solar, you have biomass. All these energies has to be developed now. And for that, you need investment.
The Bureau of Public Enterprises says a call on the collateralized shares of the core investors of Kano, Benin, and Kaduna Discos had been activated by the lenders, a consortium that include Afro-Exim Bank, Keystone Bank, Stanbic IBTC, as well as Fidelity Bank. The Bureau, in a statement, said it considers it imperative to clear the air on the development and following reactions by the affected discos. Director General of BPE, Alex Oko, who signed the statement, maintained they have already engaged with the Central Bank of Nigeria for an orderly transition and to ensure that the lenders do not hold the collateralized shares of the core investors in perpetuity, given that they do not have the technical capacity nor they have been duly authorized to operate an electricity distribution company. He added that the lenders have also assured BPE and NERC that they would participate fully in all the ongoing market initiatives aimed at improving the sector. A lot has happened in the power sector, rising costs and yet no light. So when the BPA and the NERC announced a takeover of 3 discos, some heaved a sigh of relief, but the companies are kicking. Ibadan, Port Harcourt are also affected, and according to Alex Oko of the BPA, Ibadan is currently being managed by a so-called receiver manager as a sole administrator. The receiver manager has absolutely no capacity to manage a utility and has not been authorized by the regulators as a manager of a disco. Ibadan is the worst performing disco as per the performance assessment review conducted in December 2021. Ibadan disco has actually retrogressed in terms of their critical performance parameters as contracted in the performance agreement signed with the bureau. Kunle Kola Olubio is the president, Nigeria Consumer Protection Network. He joins me to examine these issues. Kunle, you're welcome to Business Express.
Thank you very much.
Well, good to have you. You've had the issues, a race. We've had so much investment in the power sector. Why are we where we are today?
Thank you. You cannot build something on nothing. The process of privatization will lower the standard. The outcome of it or deliverables were predetermined. What we are trying to say here is that there are globally competitive brands that are indigenous or foreign that competed. They were edged out of the process because it was like a sharing formula. And so with that in mind, what we had expected in that pre-privatization, the cost of procurement in Nigeria generally was the highest globally. And just like federal government with the good initiative of monetization and sales of government properties to public servants, federal government original intention is to reduce or de-escalate the burden of governance, public sector funding, and that was done successfully in the telecom sector and other sectors where the privatization itself has been successful. Privatization itself is not a bad idea, but in the power sector, what we have is an embodiment of rent-seeking model. And if you borrow to acquire license, like most of the so-called investors did, they borrow money from the bank and they attach their stake, equity stake, as a collateral. At no point in time did they put landed property or anything in that form. So if you go to the bank, borrow money for acquisition and post license operational funding, they equally went to the bank. So indirectly it's the bank that owns the stake. Sadly, we need to come to the issue of regulatory gap. If you have a sector like in the telecom sector, I lodged a complaint with the chairman NCC, Akonde, and the management within 72 hours.
Wait. Sorry to cut you. Going to the banks to get some of these finances to acquire this disco, was it part of the criteria, or is it you just get money from anywhere?
Well, banana sellers, those involved in sales of corporate gifts, like in the Benin disco, there are people that bidded for the same Benin disco. The company that won is known for corporate gifts, importation of corporate gifts. So what we have said in the technical, there are technical benchmark for due diligence and financial due diligence benchmark. So if globally competitive Nigerian bank like the Dangote group, the Boha group, you see what they've been able to do in global mobilization of funds. So, and beyond that, in the cement subsector, we've been able to do backward integration, and Nigeria used to be a net importer of cement. Now we are producing.
That came with a lot of waivers for machineries.
What I'm saying, even with all the waivers under the power sector ecosystem, federal government is just assessing funds now for the World Bank for investment in energy and what have you. Federal government, there is no sector that receive the kind of attention like energy sector from this present administration.
What actually is the gap? I want to believe Nigeria has got the expertise, both local and the imported expertise. Investment in power has been there from independence.
It's not a rocket science.
Where are we getting it wrong?
The major issue is huge gap in regulatory follow-up. If you have all the laws, if you check out all the frameworks, if you check out the neck others, if you don't have an incorruptible habitat, if you don't have an habitat an arbiter that can be, can step on toes. Without apology, no matter what we say, we discuss it. Ransom Owa, Sam Amadi, and lately, Tony Aka, as chairman of NEC, they asserted their independence even before minister. When minister gives them idea, they say, look, this will be regulatory capture. There's a dichotomy between the executive, though the institutions are part of the executive arm, but regulatory institutions all over the world are expected to exercise some level of independence. Very recently, the policy of NEC on national mass metering was copy and paste. Prepare document for them to sign without even reading. So it has been so embarrassing. And we are saying to Mr. President that the present regulatory institution that we have as a lead regulatory institution is the most paid regulatory institution in the world. The president don't even earn the amount of money regulators earning. The chairman of NEC at any point in time, not the present one, from inception, earned 8 million naira per month.
Wow.
7 million naira per month for commissioner. And those who were there for it,
and this is verified
outside the purview of salary and wages commission, those who were given 5 years time tenure, that they ended their tenure very recently, they will get for the chairman 400 million severance package.
Okay,
all these are drawn from the market. Now they don't have any reason not to perform. Issue of
now
there are different extant rules or laws that have been fashioned out to make sure that the system works.
Okay.
If as a disco you deliberately reject load, because as we speak now, we're supposed to be growing in capacity. Take for example, Nigerian population is 206.1 million. We are picking load of 2,600 to 3,500 megawatts. That is an invitation to global energy index. South Africa of about 60 million have generation capacity of over 50,000 megawatts. After the
way above ours.
Yes, after the Egyptian revolution, Egypt was able to wrap up their energy by additional 30,000 megawatts within the short span. So, and if you need to look at it, the issue of security challenges, the issue of youth unemployment is all tied to the fact that we are a nation of sharing formula and not productive economy.
Okay, now with this decision, go and from now, what do we expect?
Well, we'll still bring it back to the regulation. The central bank surprisingly has provided the leadership. It is the central bank now that has given us more of sanction for infraction. If not for the central bank,
and not the regulator.
Not the regulator. So embarrassing. If not for the central bank, they had to expel the account of the discos. The investors, the essence of the paradigm shift from public sector led power sector to private sector driven power sector, one is to increase the global competitive index of Nigeria and enhance what we call competitive electricity market. Okay. The investors promise that they have the technical expertise. They had to go and package some foreign brands as their technical partner. As we speak to you now, most of those technical partners, they presented for privatization on the basis on which they were pre-qualified technically. It was a misrepresentation to federal government, which makes it fraudulent contract. It's a fraud, and federal government in public interest has the right to revoke the license. Now they gave them a 10-year tenure.
Yes.
To invest in metering. Averagely, electricity consumers that don't places outside the city center, including the NTA, the defense headquarters, and strategic areas, to the embarrassment of the government of the day. Government are giving them so much money at night and several hours of the day. You cannot even diplomatic zone, you cannot even predict power supply. Now, as we speak to you, on the average, on daily basis, there are always an average of 4,000 megawatts that will be ready to be hit daily, and those at the downstream will reject the load.
Is it because they don't have the capacity? Is it the infrastructure that is not there? From all indications, there are a lot of challenges in this sector. But recently, in a few days, we have been seeing improved power supply. How can that be sustained?
Well, what we are saying is that the global benchmark of UN is 1,000 megawatts to 1 million people.
1,000 to 1 million. Okay.
So that means that on the average, we need nothing less than 200 gigawatts.
How can we get them?
20,000 megawatts.
How can we get them?
It's not a rocket science. Now, this grid, the industry consumes a lot of energy, base load. And if you look at the base load assessment, we need to encourage the energy mix, rooftop sources like renewable. Each local government, federal government, all these facilities that federal government is securing, it will have been better to invest them in renewables, upgrade. Each local government, like what they are doing in Baruti, Kosubosu in Kwara, is a promising terrain. You can have 10 megawatts per local government.
These issues are serious issues that we can't exhaust them at this sitting. I think it's something
on a very quick note.
Yes,
the takeover of the
discos,
the affected discos by the banks, at least is sending a strong signal that the agreement is not cast in stone. But we wish that there will be a good mix of expertise and those from the banking institution so that we can get good results. By 2023, the license of the discos will expire. We expect federal government to take advantage of that window and look for other serious-minded, genuine investors like the Dangotes, the BOA, and several others to come into the
genuinely in other sectors.
Who are genuinely in other to come in, and
thank you so very much. We would love to have you again so that we'll get to handle this exhaustively. Thank you so very much for sharing your thoughts.
Thank you very much. Yeah,
thank you. Yeah. Well, let's take a trip to the commodities market. On the capital markets for Friday, it closed negative. The all-share index shared minus 0.01% at 51,557.41 basis point. Market capitalization was at 27.8 trillion naira. 115.130 million shares valued at 1.7 billion naira exchanged hands in 3,479 deals. Next is the global market update.
Hello and welcome to the Global Market Review. Stocks across the globe struggled to make gains after the killing of Japan's former Prime Minister caused a pullback in Asian stocks. European stocks opened lower in early trades Friday but pointed to gains and were set for a small weekly gain as investors in the region waited for US jobs data. Now, stocks in Asia Pacific were mostly higher this Friday, but Japanese stocks gave back some earlier gains and the yen rose on news that the former Japanese Prime Minister had been critically injured after a shooting at a campaign event. The Nikkei 225 was up 0.1% and closed at 26,517.19. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index also rose 0.38%, while the Shanghai Composite was down 0.25%. US stock futures fell in early deals following a rally on Wall Street. Futures tied to the Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 0.38%. The S&P 500 also depreciated by 0.47%, and the Nasdaq Composite was down 0.6%. Stocks were mixed on Friday, also rising from economic risk from inflation that hit global sentiment. South Africa's JSE Africa Top 40, Morocco's Free Float Index, and Ghana's GSE Composite were some of the stocks in green, while Namibia's overall index and Tunisia's Tunidex pointed downwards. And that's Global Market Review. I am Neka Oku.
Well, this is where we end this episode of the program. Don't forget, you can access all previous episodes on YouTube on the NTA's channel. Also be informed that you can communicate with us via our social media handles. Do join us again Monday at 3 p.m. for another package. I am Benny Adams saying, stay safe.
You can watch NTA International live on your TV, computer, iPad, tablet and phone. Log on to visiontv.co.uk and click on Entertainment, then NTAI. You can also download the iOS or Android app on your mobile devices to watch NTA International on the go, anywhere in the world. NTA International, your window to the world.
To every politician, as the campaigns gain momentum and passions begin to rise, remember, the errors of your opponents do not make you a success. Do not run down your opponent and inflame passions to violence between and among your supporters. What counts is what you plan to do for the electorate and how you intend to relieve the sufferings and bring succor. Nigeria is in dire need of patriotic leaders at all levels, leaders who will make national development their priority. Concentrate on telling the electorate what you intend to do when you get into office. Focus on making your vision clear to the electorate. Don't engage in verbal abuses, fake news or speeches. Keep dealing with issues that will bring progress. You win the hearts and minds of the people by being above board, by being civil, patriotic, and showing empathy. Let's join hands to make the 2023 elections peaceful. A message from the National Orientation Agency.
From dusk to dawn, 24 hours a day, NTA International is with you. In your living room, office, and everywhere, anywhere. We provide the company you desire in terms of balanced and up-to-date news, programs, and the best of entertainment. Tune in to DSTV channel 251, GoTV channel 91, Freeview channel 264, or live streaming via www.visiontv.co.uk. And to watch NTA International in the USA, Canada, and Mexico, use the following satellite parameters. You can also see us on Facebook and YouTube for quality content on the go. NTA International, Africa's window to the world.
To every politician, as the campaigns gain momentum and passions begin to rise, remember, the errors of your opponents do not make you a success. Do not run down your